Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. We're diving straight into China's latest move around Taiwan, because this is the kind of development that looks boring on paper and absolutely is not boring in practice. Beijing is trying to turn pressure around Taiwan into routine administration. That is the big story. Chinese state media is now describing recent operations east of Taiwan as an offshore governance model. Translation: China wants the world to get used to Chinese maritime agencies, rescue forces, navigation support units, and Coast Guard ships treating Taiwan's eastern waters like they are already under Beijing's management. Not someday. Not after a crisis. Right now, through forms, patrols, inspections, traffic control, rescue coverage, and seabed mapping. It is the paperwork version of coercion, and that may sound dull, but in the Taiwan context, paperwork can move borders. The trigger appears to be Japan and the Philippines, opening talks on maritime boundary issues involving waters east of Taiwan. Beijing did not like that at all. So from June 6th to June 10th, China's Ministry of Transport pulled together several maritime agencies, including offices from Fujian and Guangdong, plus East China Sea navigation and rescue bodies. Chinese authorities claim the operation covered more than 1,000 nautical miles, inspected 198 vessels, and corrected 3 violations. The details matter because this was not framed as a military drill. It was framed as governance. Beijing is basically saying, we administer this space. And Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines, and the US now have to decide how hard to push back when the coercion comes wearing a reflective safety vest. That is the genius and the danger of the gray zone. Taiwan's defense ministry reported 5 PLA Navy ships around the island during the same window and no PLA aircraft. On a normal military tracker, that might look like a quieter day. But strategically, it was not quiet. China can create pressure without a dramatic air package, without missiles, and without giving Washington an easy red line to point at. This is the Taiwan problem in miniature: slow squeeze, legal theater, and a whole lot of who-us energy from Beijing. Taipei, meanwhile, is not just sitting there taking notes. Taiwan's National Security Bureau launched a website on Sunday encouraging Chinese nationals to provide intelligence tips. This is a very direct play. The message is aimed at people inside or connected to China who are frustrated by economic problems, political tightening, and the kind of anti-corruption discipline environment where officials watch colleagues disappear into investigations. The site even opened with an AI-generated video of a Chinese civil servant seeing coworkers get taken away before deciding it is time to act. Subtle? No. Effective? That depends. But it signals Taiwan is willing to make China's internal anxieties part of the intelligence fight. This is where the story gets bigger than Taiwan alone. China is not only pressing outward, it is also tightening inward. The Ministry of Public Security put out 10 typical cases of online rumor enforcement, including fabricated stories about traffic accidents, organ trafficking, food safety, and even AI-generated police impersonation. The Ministry of State Security separately warned people not to sneak into military-restricted zones for outdoor exploration and online clout. One cyclist reportedly photographed a military base and got punished. So yes, China is trying to manage Taiwan's waters, but it is also managing its own people's phones, posts, cameras, and curiosity. Very normal behavior from a government totally confident in everyone's loyalty. Totally normal. Regionally, Xi Jinping is hosting Myanmar's Min Aung Hlaing in Beijing for a 5-day visit. This is his first China trip since becoming president in April, through a parliament packed with military loyalists. Min Aung Hlaing, of course, is the former junta chief who led the 2021 coup that crushed Myanmar's democratic opening and pushed the country into civil war. He is expected to meet Xi, Premier Li Qiang, and top legislator Zhao Leiji. The sequencing is interesting because he had just gone to India, where he met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on security and trade. Analysts read that India trip as an attempt to balance China's influence. Beijing's answer is basically, come on back to the big table, pal. China has investments, border interests, and strategic access at stake in Myanmar, and it does not want New Delhi becoming the more attractive dance partner. Hong Kong is also worth watching, though it is a quieter governance story. Chief Executive John Lee would not say whether he plans to seek a second term beginning in July 2027. Lee, a former police officer and security chief, said he is focused on continuity and on rolling out Hong Kong's first five-year plan before the end of 2026. That phrase, five-year plan, tells you where the city's political center of gravity has moved. Hong Kong is being pulled deeper into mainland-style governance rhythms. Lee's administration is also under pressure after the Wong Fuk court fire last November killed 168 people and left thousands homeless. So the question is not just whether Lee stays, it is whether Hong Kong's post-crackdown model can deliver competence, not only control. Now to the Middle East, where China welcomed the emerging US-Iran deal because Beijing has a lot riding on calm in the Gulf. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said China welcomed the initial memorandum of understanding and urged all sides to stick with dialogue. President Donald Trump announced the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and removal of the U.S. naval blockade. Iranian reporting described possible asset unfreezing and joint Iranian-Omani administration of the strait, though Washington disputed some details. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who helped mediate, said talks would continue ahead of a planned June 19th signing in Switzerland. China's interest is very simple: energy. It gets roughly 40% of its oil and about one-third of its liquefied natural gas from the Middle East. So when Hormuz jams up, Beijing feels it fast. The market reaction gave China an unexpected win. Reuters reported that global asset managers have been adding Chinese government bonds since the Iran war broke out. The appeal is not big yield. It is stability. Western bond markets have been getting punched around, while Chinese government bonds have looked boring in the best possible way. Foreign institutions held about 3.21 trillion yuan in Chinese interbank bonds at the end of May, up from 3.12 trillion a month earlier. Low inflation, tight capital controls, abundant domestic liquidity, and a dovish central bank all help China sell itself as a financial shock absorber. Beijing will absolutely enjoy that narrative. Australia is seeing the same China challenge from another angle. A Lowy Institute report warned that China's ability to strike Australia will grow over the next decade. The near-term concern is less Hollywood missile drama and more cyber attacks, undersea cable cuts, and pressure on maritime trade routes through the Indonesian archipelago. Longer term, Chinese bombers, missile reach, and potential Pacific Island access could put more of Australia at risk. Beijing dismissed the report as threat hype, because of course it did. But Canberra's concern is grounded in a real strategic shift. China's reach is growing, and the Pacific is no longer background scenery. Finally, the future war file. PLA Daily warned that low Earth orbit satellite constellations are becoming central to modern combat, citing SpaceX's Starlink, U.S. Space Force contracts, Starshield, and drone warfare. The argument was clear: space networks are moving from support role to frontline enabler. Communications, targeting, drone swarms, long-range strikes, all of it depends on resilient connectivity. And on the ground, analysts are warning about Chinese robot wolves, quadruped systems that could scout landing zones, move supplies, and reduce early casualties in a Taiwan scenario. That does not mean robot dogs are about to decide history, but it does mean Beijing is looking for machines that can take the first hit, while humans make the political decision from a safer room. Thanks for listening. If you value clear, consistent analysis, leaving a review or a comment helps others discover the show. We also publish a daily intel brief on Substack, restrictedhandling.substack.com, offering deeper coverage on Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Appreciate your time. Have a great week.